Greetings. Father Mark signing on with the next installment of Mississippi Minutes, a series of concise videos in tribute to the Great River and Catholicism in the states that live with it. Last time, we covered the origins of the Mississippi River. Today, we'll explore the descendants of the Ice Age hunters who walked into the future Americas when thick glaciers and lower sea level made land travel back and forth from East Asia possible. Their heirs were trapped in the Americas, or isolated in the Americas, after the ice melted and sea level rose 11,700 years ago. Each language group of their descendants have names for themselves in their own languages. Over time, various names have been used to describe them collectively for convenience, and therefore all of them fall short. Some of them, the most famous being Indians, also Native Americans, First Nations, Indigenous peoples, Paleo-Americans, pre-Columbian civilizations, and many others. After the presently named Americas were isolated by sea level rise, numerous diseases developed in other parts of the world to which these Ice Age descendants had no natural immunity, including smallpox, typhus, diphtheria, bubonic plague, measles, influenza, cholera, and others. Meanwhile, glaciers melted into declivities etched by glaciers into the Earth's crust, creating an entirely new biosphere of freshwater lakes and rivers, including the Mississippi River. This naturally fostered the development of new types of human societies that were not solely dependent on hunting for survival. A parallel development in other parts of the world took place, including the future Europe. The descendants of those Ice Age hunters later came to the Americas by sea and changed its history. Meanwhile, improving Ice Age climate and the fertile soil left behind opened many possibilities for sustenance. In Laurentia, or North America, cultivation of beans has been identified by archaeologists as early as 3000 BC. Evidence of the cultivation of maize in North America, that's corn, squash, has been identified as early as 2200 BC. Remains of pottery used for storage and utensils has been found as early as 1400 BC. From 1000 BC on, evidence of organized settlements with irrigation systems for crops, domesticated animals, including turkeys, ducks, llamas, guinea pigs, and metallurgy, including gold, silver, copper, has been identified in Laurentia, or North America. Many of these ice-aged descendants, well, they spread all up, from Alaska, Canada, North America, South America, all over. But many of them, of their descendants, coalesced into tribal societies surviving along the Mississippi River. The northern Mississippi region included the Sioux, the Ojibwe, the Illinois. Lower Mississippi River included the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Natchez, Caddo, Osage, and many others. Between 800 and 1540 AD, sufficient similarities among these tribes led later archaeologists and anthropologists to describe them as having a shared culture around the river, therefore called the Mississippian culture. The Mississippians, Native Americans, were ancestors of many Native American tribes, including the Alabama, the Appalachee, the Caddo, the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, the Homa, and others. The Mississippian societies were characterized in part by their farming techniques, which included growing corn, beans, tobacco, sunflower, and others. They made elaborate ceramic dishes and serving utensils. Theirs were distinguished from that developed elsewhere too. Theirs were distinguished by the use of shells that they found in the rivers and the lakes. Their settlements were also distinguished by being organized around large constructed earthen mounds. For example, the present Cahokia Mounds State Historic Site dates from 1050 AD, situated across the Mississippi River from the present St. Louis, Missouri. It covers 2,200 acres in St. Clair County, Illinois. The site contains 80 of these human-made, human-constructed earth mounds constructed by Mississippian tribes, plus 120 other earthenworks. Essentially, it was a city. At its peak, this area could have housed up to 20,000 people. Further south, going down the river, the Emerald Mound site is located on the current Natchez Trace Parkway near Stanton in the state of Mississippi. The site dates to 1200 AD, constructed by the ancestors of the Natchez Indian tribes. It features a platform mound that covers 8 acres. Going further down the river, the Medora site can be found outside of Plaquemine in our own state of Louisiana in West Baton Rouge Parish, dating to 1300 AD. Our own Louisiana State University conducted an excavation immediately prior to World War II that identified 2 mounds separated by a planned plaza, open space, forming the nucleus of another Mississippian tribal city. Over 18,000 pottery artifacts were saved during that excavation. These are only 3 examples, among many others, of one pre-contact culture created by the descendants of East Asian hunters isolated in the future Americas when the Ice Age ended. To place this in a wider context for future videos, the world population in 1300 AD, which corresponds to the Medora site, the world population was 450 million. 100 million of them died in a 3-year period between 1347 and 1350. That's the bubonic plague. But none, 0, died of the bubonic plague in the Americas, as that plague developed after the Americas were geographically isolated. So, in the case of the bubonic plague, their isolation benefited them. As we'll see later, it would not. The population, meanwhile, the population of the Americas continued to multiply without that artificial reduction. By the time of European first contact with the Ice Age descendants in North America, in the Americas, in 1492, the total population on the American continents was 100 million. 80 million of them died as a result of European diseases that developed after the American continents were isolated by sea level rise. So in that case, the isolation worked against them. By way of comparison, it took Europe 200 years for its population to reach back to its pre-bubonic plague population numbers. No such recovery occurred in the Americas because there was more than one disease that got brought over. The current situation of their descendants under U.S. law includes the Indian Citizenship Act of 1920, that's what it's called, in 1924, granted U.S. citizenship to all Native Americans born in the United States who had not yet obtained it. According to the 2020 census, the most recent, 3.7 million people in the U.S. registered as either American Indian or Alaska Native. Another 5.9 million registered as having a lineage combined, including one of those with another. So this brings a total of 9.6 million. That's almost 3% of the U.S. population in 2020 having descent from these East Asian Ice Age hunters. The U.S. Bureau of Indian Affairs, recognizes 574 tribal governments and 326 Indian reservations in the United States. Reservations, that's a legal construct, analogous to, not exactly the same as, but analogous to states. They have similar limitations. For example, neither these tribal reservation governments nor U.S. states have the power to make war, to engage in foreign relations, sign treaties, or to coin money. 78% of those 9.6 million descendants of the East Asian Ice Age hunters live outside of a reservation. That concludes this Mississippi Minute. Thank you for your attention. St. Albertus Magnus, patron saint of archaeology, pray for us.